What is going on YouTube? My name is Flossie. Thank you so much for joining me on my channel. In today's video, I wanted to discuss my top 5 personal concerns for The Division. Now, if you don't know what The Division is, odds are you clicked on this video by accident, so I'm not going to go over what the game is or what people are expecting of it. These concerns come from me, some personal friends of mine, as well as a lot of chatter that is going on over the internet. Now, in no particular order, here they are, so let's go ahead and jump on into it. Number 1, repetition. Now this is a problem that me and a lot of other people have talked about, that the game could have started off a bit more engaging as far as gameplay and gunplay are concerned. Most of the gunfights stem from you finding a group of enemies standing out in the open, getting into cover, shooting them down, and then continuing on your way. Now this is usually a problem that's fixed with a lot of the games that are of this style, where you have a lot of RPG elements and leveling up systems, and a lot of this is fixed just after you play the game. And I did notice this through the beta, just from, starting off at level 4 all the way to level 8. Once you unlock more abilities, get more gear, more weapons, more customization, and more toys available for you to play with, the game does vary up fairly significantly. However, more things can lead to repetition other than this, even if this is remedied in the final game. You do tread through a lot of the same locations and a lot of the same enemy spawning groups time and time again, not to mention that the biggest thing that could lead to repetition is meaningful, or in this case, not very meaningful, side activities. There are side activities for the base of operations, the center point purpose of how you unlock your trees of abilities in the Division, and a lot of these are very, very stale, very generic, and pop up very frequently. After you've done them about 2 or 3 times, you feel like you've seen it all, and you pretty much have. So hopefully this will be a bit more varied in the final game, and we won't have any sort of sense of repetition, and things will just get better the longer that we play the game. Number 2, the AI, the enemy artificial intelligence in the Division. Obviously, this is very important in a PvE-centric MMO-style game such as the Division, and if the AI isn't very engaging, then the combat is not going to be very engaging. This also sort of comes back to repetition. The AI in the Division can oftentimes feel a bit outdated. You have your standard group of grunts who run straight at you with no mind, which doesn't play very well with a game that doesn't have an elaborate melee system. You have enemies who have shields and will slowly push towards you. You have enemies who aren't very aggressive and sit in the back, and you can pretty easily predict where enemies are going to go, when they're going to pop up their heads and allow you to shoot them, and it doesn't make for extremely engaging combat. Now this is just in the pre-release. Their AI could be better in the final release of the game, but I feel that after a time, if they are the same as they were in the pre-release, they could get a bit boring to fight against. Number 3, story. Concerns have been running rampant for storylines and online-driven games ever since the colossal failure that was the Destiny storyline, and unfortunately, we can't even tell what sort of route the devs are trying to take with the Division. Are they trying to make it more Destiny style, where it's just a thin layer of narrative that tells you why you're here and what you're doing, or is it meant to be a more integral part of the game, like Ubisoft's other titles such as Watch Dogs and Assassin's Creed? Well, we have no idea, and the biggest concern that I have for this is that so far, it would appear that our protagonist is a silent one, which is incredibly odd for a third-person game with third-person cutscenes. Your character sort of blankly stares off into the distance and occasionally nods left or right to the character who's talking to them, and it just makes for awkward cutscenes. I can't see them developing a meaningful, coherent storyline with this in place. Now, obviously, we have no idea how it's going to be with the full release, but that's the biggest problem that we have with it, is that we have absolutely no clue what to expect, let alone how it's going to execute. Number 4, in-game content. In-game content is always a hugely integral and important part of games of this style, because it has everything to do with the replayability and the long-term success of the franchise. It's what keeps players coming back and playing until the next DLC or next expansion over the course of months and even years. Now currently, in-game for the Division is in the same boat as the story, where we know pretty much nothing at all about it, and that does draw a couple of red flags for people. Now this could just be that the devs don't want to show everything off and spoil it and let players discover it for themselves. However, a big concern with a lot of stuff these days is you just have to take everything with a grain of salt, and this could mean that there simply isn't much to the endgame, which would have a huge detriment to the replayability of the game and how long it could last. Like I said, right now we know absolutely nothing. There is a rumored raid on Rikers Island, but we still know nothing about it. They have said that there are larger events later on, and that there is stuff to do once we've completed the main storyline, and it's not just going to be the Dark Zone PvP, but so far we have had little to no details on it, and we just have to wait and see. Finally, to number 5, customization. Now, I know what you're thinking. The Division has a lot of customization, and quite good customization at that, but that's not exactly what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is the visual customization, and here's where we sort of hit a bump in the road. The big thing that separates the Division from the rest of the pack of games out there is that it's a Tom Clancy game. Tom Clancy games have never been RPGs. They are very realistic, and they pride themselves in being authentic, realistic games. So with that in mind, visual customization is very, very limited. All we have available to us are different types of hats, jackets, shoes, etc., things that you would wear in real life, in the real situation, and this makes it to where, at least in the beta, that a lot of the people end up looking the same. Now, obviously, in the full game, we can fully create our own characters with our own faces instead of the presets, and that should differentiate us a little bit, but so far, there's just a whole lot of blacks, dark blues, and browns, and the characters don't really stand out other than the actual player playing them or the abilities that they have chosen. So this is just a smaller concern compared to the other 4, but it is still here because nobody likes to have everybody looking the same in games like this. So yeah guys, there you have it. Those are my top 5 concerns for the Division. Like I said, in no particular order. Obviously that last one is a much smaller concern compared to the other 4, and that's really because I don't have a whole lot of big concerns for the Division. I've thoroughly enjoyed my time with it pre-release, and I do have high expectations for it. However, there are still some things that we need to be wary of because they could heavily hurt the game in the long term if they're not executed well. But yeah guys, that'll do it for me. Thank you so much for watching the video. If you enjoyed, feel free to leave a like or a comment down below. Subscribe to my channel if you wish to see more content from me. And once again, thank you so much for watching, and I will catch you guys later.